Michelob Ultra Tuscan Orange Grapefruit. My God, America is imploding.
America is imploding, and so is everything else in my life, because the chair that I normally sit in front of my Blu-rays and everything over there finally broke. It did me proud for 3 years of trivia sitting and watching, but one day this fat ass just had to end.
Please tell me it was live on a recording.
It was not. So now I'm sitting on my couch much more comfortably, I'll add, but not. It doesn't look as good. Anyway, we're here. It's Fanzone, another match. We got Nazario Montenegro going up against Ryan O'Regan. Last time we saw Nazario, he KO'd Nico Suave Rigoli. And the last time we saw Ryan played Joe Harrison in a very, very excellent match. One of the best ones of the season. A very underrated match. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here today. Both are very different debaters. I'm looking forward to this one. Bar, you have returned to the judging chair after a long hiatus. How are you?
I'm good. I don't know if it was a hiatus as much as you kind of locked me outside.
You were playing, so that's probably why.
Fair.
And you're doing okay? You didn't answer that part of the question.
Oh, yeah, sure, I guess.
What a world we live in.
The enthusiasm in this room is blowing me away.
Brian is back. One of my favorite judges we have. Brian, how are you feeling tonight?
I'm back after a hiatus of like 6 days or something. It's been.
Yep.
So I'm here because I like to watch people argue. If it has to do with movies, great. If they're just gonna fight, that's cool too.
Yeah, right. So we will start by bringing in our lower ranked player, Nazario, and he requested to bring a manager, so
wake up. Hang on. I'm trying to find a wet work man. Okay.
Nazario,
what am I doing here?
You're here to play Ryan. The winner of this match is in the number 1 contenders match. So do you think you can beat Ryan? Why do you have a manager at a debate?
Ryan Permison. Yes,
the hunter.
Yes.
It's weird. I thought he retired.
I know, shit.
Maybe he's bringing back the Hail the Hunter thing.
Yeah, it could be. Shit.
Not Ryan Permison. Ryan O'Regan.
Who?
Who the fuck is that?
Is there anything?
I don't even know what the fuck you're doing here, Mike. This
I don't
is not
either.
trivia.
Hey, you send me a link, I show
here.
up.
Oh,
fuck it.
You know what? It's a debate. Give me some advice, then you can go.
Don't fuck it up.
Good advice.
That is good advice. Thank you, Mr. DVD. I'm so confused. We'll bring in Ryan. Ryan, welcome. You're playing Nazario this evening, as you know. Like I said before, winner of this is a number 1 contenders match. Do you think you got what it takes?
Before I say anything, I would like to dedicate this match to Tim's chair. I'll give one up for him. Yes. And as for Nazario, we've debated before, so I mean, I'm a little surprised that he forgets that easily. But I don't know if his memory's that bad. Works for me.
All right.
Was that in like this life or the previous one?
I'm so confused as to what's happening tonight.
So am I. I'm working without a manager, so I don't know if I have to bring one in or something like that.
No, here's how the game is going to work. There are 4 questions based off 4 categories that the players drafted. Cody is missing, but I swear he helped me write the questions. So Cody and I came up with the questions that we gave to the competitors. They're now going to debate said questions. At the end of each debate, Bar, Brian, and I will write on our handy-dandy boards who we think won the point. Best 2 out of 3 votes wins the point, and the first person to 3 points is the winner. If we are tied after 2, or after all 4, at 2 and 2, we will move on to a speed round question to break the tie and end the match. So you will have a 1-minute opening, followed by a 5-minute freeform, followed by a 1-minute closing. Any questions from the competitors as we get into the match? Great. I love that clip more and more every day. So we're going to get started. Question 1 is going to come from the category of DreamWorks animation. This was chosen by Nazario. The question is, which DreamWorks character should get a spin-off movie a la the Puss in Boots and the Penguins of Madagascar? Nazario, you drafted this, so you get to go first. You'll have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking, and I will come in to give you a 10-second warning.
Okay, when I think spin-off, I think fun. And there's no one funnier than Benzoate Oscillation Bicarbonate, or Bob for short, for Monsters vs. Aliens. This is a creature that was played by Seth Rogen, and he was very funny. He had no brain. He has a gelatinous body. So I figure we can have a spin-off when he's on an adventure with the monster team, right? So he starts fucking up, because he doesn't have a brain, so he starts making mistakes. He feels like he's failing his team. So one night he just goes out. He abandons them. He goes looking out for a brain, like he's Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, but he doesn't realize that is not how it works. He meets some new friends. He meets some colorful characters that we can sell toys of. And then Dr. Cockroach feels bad for it and makes him a brain. This brain works. It's very AI technological, and it makes him an efficient person, but it maybe makes him lose his heart. We explore that. Let's go.
Time. All right. Move over to Ryan. Ryan, you now have 1 minute when you start talking.
So my pick comes from one of the most underrated DreamWorks animated movies that was a success, but unfortunately just got overshadowed by something a lot stupider. And that would be Megamind. My character would be Metro Man, the superhero of Metrocity, or Metro City, who pretty much gave up the superhero life, made the choice to retire, and wants to become a musician. So what would happen if someone who's had like monotonous success in his entire life finally goes ahead and does something that, let's face it, we saw in the movie, not the best singer? What's it like for someone who's always won to actually face some type of adversity, to actually go up against something and do something that he really feels passionate about, but isn't the best at? Take him out of the city, put him into the country. His uniform, his outfit already had like a country feel to it. Make him a country singer. Make it The Star is Born, but for animated movies. A little bit of Trolls with the music, a little bit of Incredibles with the vibe. It's rockadoodle but good.
Time. All right. Metro Man and Bob. 5 minutes. When one of you starts talking, don't talk over each other, or I will beat you with a stick.
Why?
Why not?
Metro Man is basically Superman, man. We can make Superman animated movies. We do not need to explore.
And Bob
another
is basically Curly or Harpo from many other comic trilogy people. He's not a good character on his own. He's best when he's with Link and Dr. Cockroach.
But
Why
I'm actually
we have to have a
saying that he's
superhero
going to have
movie
new
or
characters.
anything that is, just him when he's the dumbest character?
Because that's the point. Minions are the dumbest thing in the world, but they are endearing and they are fun and they make money. And my point is that you use Bob to introduce new characters. You make him go on this little adventure where he meets colorful characters that become their friends. And then when he finally gets a brain and becomes like an efficient machine, he loses his heart. And then everybody realizes that it's not the same person. And you can
How
give it
is
a
this
twist.
any different from the actual Bob short film that we got? The 2 short films that had to deal with like the mutant vegetables that came and zombified everybody, or even the television series that they got on Nickelodeon. There's been plenty
If it
that's been
works in
explored about Bob,
television,
and
you can
many
use
things that
that.
have had to deal with changing Bob's physiology or chemistry in order to give him some other type of power. That's not new ground. It's the stuff that's been
doesn't
done
have
with
to
Bob
be new
before.
ground.
And if they really wanted to capitalize on it, they could have. And they
It doesn't
didn't.
have to be new ground. It just have to be efficient. It just has to be fun. I didn't know the short existed. I knew the TV show existed because that is a different medium. We're talking about movies. And this is not the first time you grab something that maybe works as a short and then you expand on it. Like they did that with Agent Carter. They did one short film, one short with her. It worked, so they gave her 2 seasons of TV. You can take an idea, test it in one medium, and expand it in another one. The
Right,
problem
but
I
if
see
we're
with
talking
your
about
character,
spin-offs, the way Puss in Boots and the way Penguins of Madagascar have, it can't be one of those things that heavily relies on using the other characters in there. Then it's just more of a sequel. A spin-off that has to go ahead and have the person really go out on their own. Metro Man is leaving everything in Metro City. He's going off to the country. He is trying to pursue his passion. He is really expanding the universe, whereas Bob is just playing around in the same town that they've been in. You go ahead and you put him in
no, I
a
said.
scenario where he finds out that he's not as good as he thinks he is, meets up with maybe another country singer that goes ahead and shows him how to properly sing, how to properly do music rather than just be a fan of it. And hell, you could even go the whole rockadoodle line and have like a slimy producer who finds out he is a former superhero and tries to use that to advantage. Try to have him under his
I will
wing.
use Rockadoodle as I would references, but like I said, the starting point is when he is with the other monsters. He goes on an adventure on his own. He makes new friends, new character, because that's what you want. You want more characters, you want a separate adventure, and you want them to be colorful. About Metro Man, you already established yourself that he cannot sing. And singing is not something you can read. You can learn technique, but you
You
cannot
can
learn
learn how to
talent.
sing. You can
You
learn
cannot learn
music. You can
talent,
learn
and
these
he
things.
doesn't have the talent to carry his own tune. So if you put
How
him
do you know until we
trying to
actually
be,
see
Let
him try?
Nazario finish his point. Stop talking over.
if you put him in and you try to make him force it into being a successful singer of country, first everybody just was gonna get autographs from him for being a superhero, because nobody will care if he actually can sing or not. And the second part, it will break his heart because he cannot reach the levels of success that he needs because he's not talented. Real singers have to be talented.
That is not true. That is a perfect reason to go into the music industry. A superhero trying to hide his identity with the beard and everything else, still trying to pursue his passion, seeing the vile disgustingness that is in the music industry. A superhero that's trying to not be a superhero and pursue his other stuff, but you see all the villainy in something like the
1
music
minute.
industry that could always pull him
This
out
is
of
still
it.
supposed to be an animated film. So who's this for? Mine has an obvious market. You can get the colorful characters, you can get the colorful toys. Kids will come back, and everybody loves Bob. And if you go, like I said, with the twist, when he gets the brain, he becomes like this kind of a sentient being that cannot have any heart anymore. And he has to discover the inner beauty of himself, of his true self, being just a brainless mass of gelatinous blob. And that is good enough. That is also a very positive message for kids. What is the message of your movie?
The message of the movie is that when you actually want to pursue something, you shouldn't let little things like maybe not ever learning how to sing deter you. You go get
Or
the
having
lessons,
talent.
you get inspired, you become the role that you want to play. You make the choice and you pursue it. Don't let adversity get you down. How is that not a lesson for kids? And you asked me who the audience is? Kids and adults. All right. If Incredibles can go ahead and play for both, so can this.
Time. All right, Ryan, you get to close your argument. First, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
You want to say that Metro Man is Superman. The thing about Superman is that many people think that he's just a perfect character, but the thing is, he isn't. We've seen that in other iterations. Metro Man is a flawed character. We're talking about a man who faked his death just to go ahead and stop being a superhero and stop saving lives to pursue his passion. Selfish, short-sighted, someone who really thinks that he can just get away with it all, that he's that perfect. When he starts seeing that the adversity is not there, that is a movie I would want to see. I would want to see how someone with that mentality goes ahead and changes, evolves, becomes the better person, becomes the singer that they really want to be with the right influences and with tackling adversity. This is something for kids. It's something for adults. It's certainly marketable. I'm sure you can go ahead and make an entire soundtrack and score that would really pop, which DreamWorks has shown they can do with Trolls franchise. There's no reason to not go ahead and take someone like Metro Man, even bring back Brad Pitt to lead it if you need to, but it can work.
Time. All right. Nazario, you have 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
I think you're trying to force a square into a circle here. You're right. You have an idea, but you do not know where it's going to go. I know where mine's going to go. Bob is going to go on a separate adventure. He's going to make new characters, going to make new friends. He's going to learn stumble thinking that he needs to be smart to be actually a functional hero. He will get a brain. he will realize that that turns him into something else. The AI can take over his body and start being super efficient, and then realize that he's not connecting emotionally to the other characters. And realize that the love that he had inside was good enough. That is a great message for kids. That is a colorful character. You can make toys from it. You can actually keep going with it. If they already made a TV show, you can get some ideas from it, because it is a possibility to adapt other mediums. I think your idea sounds too adult. I think the character facing that level of adversity, especially because he already is a no-talented singer, you cannot really overcome that. And what's the crisis? What's the enemy in this movie? You probably just gonna end up with the Fox and the Hound too.
Time. All right. If I could learn how to stop my stopwatch, there we go. Okay. Bring back in the judges and the players. I always forgot how much space I had over in my chair. Now I'm like, meh. It's more comfortable, but I'm struggling a bit, guys. All right. Judges, are we good?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to start us off. I'm going with Nazario. I think that overall Nazario kind of, to be clear, I think both of these pitches are a little woof. Not characters I would have picked, gentlemen. But sure. And anyway, but I thought Nazario did a better job of explaining a big picture of what his movie would look like, the things you could do in his movie, colorful characters for kids and adults with a sweet message. While I get where Ryan was coming from with the message of his film and everything, I agree. Comparing it to A Star Is Born, I think was a mistake. There are just certain things in there that I think he fumbled on, and Nazario was able to just slam. So I go to Nazario. Bar, where are you going and why?
I also went with Nazario. Nazario kind of got it at the end there when he kind of pointed out that he had a better idea of his movie. He had like a beginning, a middle, and ending, and Ryan just kind of kept bouncing around with thing. It's like A Star Is Born, and it's also Rockadoodle, and it's all. So I think Nazario made a really good point in this closing with that.
All right, Brian, your vote doesn't count, but where would you have gone and why?
I also put Nazario. I think that Nazario is, especially a lot of his argument is spent like pitching the movie like an executive about how it would make money and how you could sell toys, and I wasn't really sure why I was taking that angle with it. And Ryan made some good points against his, as far as like, how he's already had TV shows and shorts and that, although Nazario defended that part well. But then with Ryan's, I have to agree with Tim. Of all the characters in DreamWorks movies, these are not the two that deserve their spin-off. Now, you both presented good ideas for spin-offs. They're valid ideas of what you could do with the stories. But of all the characters, these two deserved it. I don't know. But
you should have picked one of the characters from Turbo.
Something. I don't
White
know.
Shadow.
But yeah. So I just came down to the fact that Nazario defended the attacks better. Also, it doesn't help when you quote Rockadoodle, because that's a horrible movie.
I like it.
All right. So Nazario wins point number 1. We're going to move on to question number 2, which was drafted by Ryan in the category of comedy. And the question is, what comedy should have been nominated for Best Picture? So we are going to start with Ryan, since he drafted this. Ryan, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
My pick was Back to the Future, which, yes, it was nominated for some Oscars, but considering the other contenders in that field that year, it's criminal that it wasn't necessarily looked at for Best Picture when you can look at other award shows of that year, and it certainly was by their comparison. This cultural significance, the memorable scenes, the lighthearted humor, and even some of the darker humor, especially when it came to Lorraine. All these aspects just make a fully fledged, well-rounded comedic film. Yes, science fiction based, but certainly funny regardless. This could have been a real tentpole moment for the Oscars if they had nominated it, instead of going for the standard, romantic, pieces, or the period pieces, the typical Oscar fluff. They really could have made a mark by nominating Back to the Future. Not saying maybe it would have won or it would have, but should have been in the talks.
Time. Okay. Nazario, we are going to move over to you for your pick. 1 minute when you start talking.
When you think of a comedy that can get that, comedies are not usually recognized by the Oscars, which is kind of a criminal shame. But I decided to pick a true classic that actually I feel transcended its origin as a comedy, transcended its genre, which is 1993's Groundhog Day. It's a lovely little movie that you would think is just a romantic comedy with a gimmick of the repeating day and stuff, but actually it's more about self-discovery. It's a movie where a person has to grow from being scared by the situation, taking advantage of the situation because it's very, very selfish, and actually understanding his situation, getting desperate and coming back and realizing that you have to be a better person, not because you want people to like you, but because you need that for yourself. This movie has been memorable. Everybody remembers it. It appears in top 100 lists all the time. And it's criminal that they didn't get a single Oscar recognition. I mean, how many people remember The Remains of the Day that was nominated for Best Picture? Everybody remembers Groundhog Day.
All right. Groundhog Day, Back to the Future. I've seen both of these movies. Crazy. 5 minutes free form when one of you starts talking.
Your movie is very problematic, man. This is the kind of film that the Academy Award would not touch for Best Picture with a 10-foot pole. You have a weird relationship between a teenager and an old man that is never successfully explained. The only explanation you get is that he makes him leave his house at 1 a.m. to go to a deserted mall where he gets attacked by actual terrorists because he was playing with actual nuclear devices and plutonium. And then
but it was Libya, so it was tactical.
He travels in time by accident, and he interferes on his stalker dad while he's peeking at his mother through the window like a freak, and then tries to hook up with his mother. How the hell is this going to be sold as a Best Picture?
Well, first of all, it's a comedy. These are the things that would make it comedic. These outlandish ideas that do form this bright and shiny picture all over. Despite all the dark pieces and despite all the issues that you could find with it, as far as like tone or anything like that, it comes together as a witty, insightful, and heartfelt picture. It's a picture that you could easily say was, and really was, the best picture of the year, even if only financially. Your picture, on the other hand, Groundhog Day. Okay, I remember a couple of the times Bill Murray repeated the same scene over and over and over, which I get is part of the gimmick, but it really does slow down the pacing of the film. There was the one scene where he's driving with the groundhog. There's all the multiple suicide attempts, which is just lovely. And, bad guy turns good over a course of however many years it took him to go through everything.
Yes, because that's the message of the film. He doesn't,
not exactly comedy.
He starts
to
being
me,
very
it doesn't really seem very hilarious.
He starts being very selfish. He starts doing it to pick up girls, to get some money, to impress people. And then he realizes that is not the true meaning of the lesson that he's supposed to learn. When he finally decides to improve himself because of himself, that is when he realizes that he has to become a good person. And he does it naturally. That is the good message. In the film that you're describing, Back to the Future, what's the message? Go to the past, change some things around, and when you come back, you won't be poor anymore. Your dad will have some money, and you'll get a shiny new truck. That is not a good message to sell anybody. Even if the movie is funny, mine is funny too. They are both funny, but you have to have some through line, to earn that next level.
The big through line is that the future is uncertain. Regardless of whatever you try to do to like make things status quo, or you go ahead and you change things for the betterment, regardless of whether or not you put things on track, your future is uncertain. All right. You go ahead and you go through life and you're wondering how life could have been better. He starts off with a mediocre life, and all he tries is mess things up and mess things up and mess things up until he can finally get it right. And because of these little eccentricities, all these little changes, it's a completely different world. It pretty much gave us the concept of time travel in movies as we know it. So the fact of
but that doesn't mean it's a best picture.
You're looking at a comedy that tells you that, yes, everyone could be a little bit different than how you knew them. Certainly his parents were different than how he knew them. Certainly Doc was different. It was, even if a little skeptical and still crazy, he was still a little bit more, not as absent-minded. And let's face it, as far as a film goes, it's thrilling. It's enthralling. It keeps your attention. Whereas Groundhog Day, once you've seen the same scene like a few times, it starts to drag. It doesn't keep your attention. It's not something that I
It
would
does keep
necessarily
your
watch
attention
over and
because
over
that's the
again.
gimmick. And every time you see the scene, it's always a slightly different. What you're saying is basically, yeah, you messed up, you go to the past, you change some things, and you're going to get a better future. That is capitalistic view of how that movie ends. You have to
That's
get
also
the
the
movie
80s.
to become the abused one now, because Crispin Glover becomes abusive to Biff by the end of the movie.
1 minute.
Everybody can realize that. What I'm saying is, mine got completely overlooked. This movie deserved recognition in original screenplay. Bill Murray deserved a Best Actor nomination that he later got for another movie, but this one should be the first. Yours got what it deserved: special effects, maybe some music recognition, and that's about it. Creepy, stalkery, even incest.
Technically, the incest didn't really happen, so don't even count that stuff. Look,
Did he not kiss his
when it
mother?
came to comedies of that era, if you didn't push some kind of envelope, nobody cared. All right, at least with the 80s, as far as like comedies that of that time were concerned, this was still wholesome in comparison, well written in comparison, well
This is
acted
why
in comparison.
none of those movies have
Certainly
ever
made
been
way more
recognized
wars
by
for
anybody.
Michael J. Fox and
They
Christopher
are all in the
Lloyd that
same
are
big
still talked about to this day. People only care about Groundhog Day when Counting on Hot Dog actually comes around on February 2nd. Everyone cares about Back to the Future still.
Time. All right, Nazario, you get to close your argument first. 1 minute when you start talking.
I believe he comes from a wrong point of view when he says that Groundhog Day is not memorable. That is a movie that it comes up in most of the top comedies of all time. It kind of settled Bill Murray as a lead actor in the 90s. It deserved to be nominated for original screenplay. It deserved to be nominated for Best Actor, and it just got by the wayside. Like I'm saying, nobody remembers some of the movies that were nominated for Best Picture, but everybody remembers Groundhog Day. Back to the Future, at its very core, is very creepy. It's the movie that was sold in the 80s, done for the 80s, and like most of the movies from that era, it should have stayed in the 80s. It has a weird relationship with a weird old man who's not even family and a teenager. He's supposed to be a teenager boy that goes out of his house in the middle of the night to hang out with him, play with fucking nuclear items, and then accidentally travels back in time. They killed the dog at the beginning of this film, and they just skip over it. Like, no, it's okay. We're going back in time. We'll write a note. He'll be alive. This is a terrible lesson to tell people. He makes out with his mom totally, and his dad is a perv. This movie, it's fine in the 80s.
Time. All right, Ryan, you now have 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
You knock on the characters, but it's the characters that add that duality, that depth to the characters. Your guy is cynical. Oh, okay, I'm tired of being cynical. Let me try to be a better person. And it still ends up cynical at the end. So it doesn't really learn that much. You talk about the real creepy friendship. Friendship can come from anywhere. It can come between like this teenage guy and this older gentleman because they have a love of science and experimentation. You go ahead and you want to knock on anything that's dark about this movie, but this movie has a cultural significance that is surpassing Groundhog Day and most other movies, not just of the 80s, but of most comedies of all time. You cannot knock its significance. And you know what? Compared to the other movies that were nominated for Best Picture that year, Kiss of the Spider-Woman, Out of Africa, which won for some ungodly reason because it's boring as hell. Prizzy's Honor and Witness, I would gladly replace any of those with Back to the Future at any time, whereas yours had to go up against The Fugitive and The Schindler's List. Best of USA it out.
All right. Bring in the judges. Brian Barr, we good?
Yeah.
Brian, we're going to start with you.
I think this one, from the very beginning to the opening arguments, kind of showed me where it was going. Because I mean, Ryan talked about the cultural significance of the movie and how memorable it is through all time, things like this. And Nazario started off with saying mine is a lovely little movie, which it kind of was an imbalance to start with. From there, I thought that Ryan did a great job of countering Nazario's attacks about the problematic relationships and things by talking about, well, your movie's got all these suicide attempts and shows, people that's the answer to getting through life. And so I thought he countered that very well. And then at the very end, well, actually, when he was talking about how, Back to the Future is remembered year round, and Groundhog Day, people don't really think about it until it comes around the time. I thought that was a really good point. Ryan gets my point.
All right, I'll go next. I went with Nazi or Nazario, if you will. I thought that I don't disagree with what Brian actually just said, but I thought Nazario's counter to the counter of being like, this is what the movie's about. It's about going through these dark moments and then coming out the better person at the end. Thought when he said the message was overall better and cleaner. Also, Ryan he didn't spend a ton of time, but he spent enough time to me talking about how Groundhog Day isn't funny, and both were accepted as answers. So those arguments just like completely went out the window for me about if it was funny or not. I overall went with Nazario. Like I said, I think it was really close. I genuinely think it was close, but Nazario just eked it out for me. So, Bar, you get to decide this one.
Great. During the main fight, this was a little tough. But I went with Ryan. I think what Ryan did that Nazario I think slipped by Nazario is Nazario went, maybe it shouldn't have won that year, but it deserved to get nominated. Ryan went, it deserved to have won that year. Here are the movies that it should have beat, whereas Nazario just kind of didn't have that. So I think because of that, Ryan won it for me.
Okay. All right. Well, that means that Ryan wins the point. We are tied 1-1 as we get into the next category, which was chosen by Nazario in the category of directors. And the question is, what is the best performance in a Spike Jonze movie? So Nazario, you drafted this. You get to go first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Spike Jonze is a great director. He has only made 4 movies, and they're all very different levels of great. But when we want to focus on acting, just specifically acting in a movie, I think there's no comparison to Nicolas Cage's work in adaptation. This is such a complicated movie, and it's such a complicated role. This is a movie that is about Charlie Kaufman trying to adapt The Orchid Thief after he did the Bing John Malkovich, and realizing that the movie is unfilmable. So he became interested in just writing a movie about him trying to adapt an impossible-to-write movie. And not only that, he wrote himself a fictional brother that doesn't exist in real life. Nicolas Cage plays Charlie Kaufman and his fictional brother Donald Kaufman. And they are such opposite characters. They are completely different people, like two sides of a coin, and he just nails them both. He becomes so very intrigued, anxious, and dedicated as Charlie, and such aloof and happy as Donald. And it's just a complicated role that he pulls off.
Time. All right. Ryan, you now have 1 minute when you start talking.
So for this one, it was a little difficult because I wasn't truly, surrounded with Spike Jonze material myself. So I really did a deep dive on Spike Jonze. I looked at his music video series. I looked at the few movies that he has done. I tried to get a feel for who he was as a creator, as a director, as a filmmaker. And looking at everything that he's done, to me, it was obvious. Joaquin Phoenix as Theodore Twombly and Her is the perfect acting role done in a Spike Jonze movie. You look at everything that he does in Her, because he carries 90% of the film all on his own, and you can see Spike Jonze's work as a director, as a writer, as a person through his interpretation of this character. This lovelorn person who's just trying to get himself back to the person that he was, and the significance behind
time. All right. I've seen one of these movies. Which one could it be? All right. 5 minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
Your movie doesn't even challenge Joaquin Phoenix. He plays lonely sad boy, and that's what he has done for a bunch of movies in his career. He talks to himself, which basically turns the movie into a monologue, and that's it. My movie has two completely different characters. One is an anxious, nervous screenwriter who sweats every word he puts on a page. The other is his aloof brother who doesn't really care, and he just wants to try screenwriting for funsies. And the ironic twist is that he becomes more successful than his dedicated brother because that's goddamn life.
Yeah, because we haven't seen the goofy brother do good over the hardworking one before. And technically, your movie has 4 characters. Let us not forget Meryl Streep and Chris Cooper, who also played into the movie and pretty much have just as much to contribute and just as much to share in the film as Cage. So comparing Cage having to do 2 roles and still having to go like a third of the movie in comparison to Joaquin Phoenix, who pretty much carries the movie on his back. It's not like he didn't act with the voices and he didn't act with other people, but he tells the movie through his visuals, through his vocals. Everything about her comes from him.
If you're saying a third of the movie, I'm not sure you're talking about the right movie. The movie centers about Charlie Kaufman. Charlie Kaufman and his way to adapt this. He has to interact with every single character in the movie, but the movie focuses on him. He's on screen for a long period, most of the movie. My point is, his characters are so centered and so specific that it was said after, like people actually believe he had different makeup setups for both characters, because when he was playing the cool character, the self-complying character, he looked like he even had more hair and looked happier. And when he was playing Charlie Kaufman, he looked like a broken down little man who was balding and sweating all the time. That is method acting. If you can pull that off without the help of makeup, that is insane. This acting was so good that he actually got nominated for Best Academy Award for acting for this year. It was a tough year, though, which is why he couldn't win. But I think it by far surpasses whatever Joaquin Phoenix was trying to do, talking to himself for an hour and a half.
Never talked to himself. He was always talking to somebody. They just happened to be in an isolated booth, so they were never on screen. Imagine trying to emote and show everything that you're really feeling and actually talk to somebody with no one ever being there. That is true acting. That is being able to take yourself out of the equation and still be a part of the environment. Now, you want to go ahead and talk about how much they contributed to the act, how much Cage contributed. I dare say, if we're talking about the story itself, Kaufman contributed all the plot and the writing, and the costuming department went ahead out of their way to make sure that they looked different. How much of it is Cage? It's simply down to the acting that Spike Jonze directed him as to do. Same could be said for Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix pretty much did as Spike Jonze wanted, and I'd say is a more honest interpretation of what Spike Jonze wanted from the actor than what Cage gave.
First off, it's a known fact, and you can Google that up, that he didn't have different makeup for different characters. It was all on his acting, which is what makes it more memorable. What you're saying about somebody acting in a booth isolated, that's voice acting. People do it in cartoons all the time, and it's not that big of a whoop. And I don't even know what you're pulling out of this. Yes, was the movie always him in the screen? Yes, because he was talking to a voice that was on his phone. But he never really went anywhere with it. He was sad. He got a little happy. He was sad again. He doesn't have to do anything to reach deeper into his emotional package that we know he has. He has done great roles. He was great in Joker. He was great in Walk the Line. But that's when he has to reach out and do something else other than, be sad.
You're talking to be sad. The man goes through a terrible divorce with the person that he thought he loved. And he's trying to get himself back to normalcy. His friends want him to get back to normalcy. He finds comfort in the most unlikeliest of places. And let's not forget, Samantha is not just a voice. It is an actual intelligent being. Regardless of whether or not it has a body, which that also comes into play later on, and that also irks, Theodore Tremblay himself with whether or not there can be any kind of mutual relationship between them. His is a man discovering what love is again, especially considering that Spike Jonze wrote this movie, directed this movie after his divorce of Sofia Coppola. So this is as raw and as close to Spike Jonze as we actually get from him in a film. And he chose Joaquin Phoenix
to perfectly
interpret that the way he wanted it to. To say he starts talking to a voice is ignorant because the man is finding love again and losing it again.
Time. All right. We're going to start with Ryan. 1 minute to close when you start talking.
As far as Spike Jonze movies are concerned, from what I've gathered them, they're very quirky. They're very interesting visually. They like to tell a lot of stories verbally and non-verbally. And Spike Jonze is one of those, I guess, directors, one of those creators that wants to go ahead and let you just feel everything that he wants to give you. I feel that when I watch her. I feel that when I watch Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix, who is usually, I've seen him as more disgruntled and angry and volatile, shows a soft side that I have never seen from Joaquin Phoenix before. This is a side of him that ultimately just makes me think that he is probably one of the best actors in the world. He is worthy of any awards that he gets because he does what the director wants, the way they want it, the way they ask for it, and get that emotional tone from them too. This isn't someone just writing lines all by himself. This is someone interacting with a being that they have to pull all the heavy work. He carries it so well.
Time. All right, Nazario, 1 minute to close when you start talking.
You keep going back to this. This is the most Spike Jonze movie that wrote by Spike Jonze. It looks like Spike Jonze. The question is not what movie looks the most like Spike Jonze. And if you want to know what Spike Jonze is really like, go watch Jackass. He loves doing that because that's who he is. The Nicolas Cage performance is actually very layered. This is a movie that is insane in concept. This is a movie about adapting a book that cannot be adapted into a movie. And then how his brother starts using all these tropes from summer blockbuster and saying that would make your movie better. And then the movie transforms into a summer blockbuster with a chase and everything in the end. He becomes a character in his own story. And then he becomes a character in his brother's story. It's so deep and so layered. And you always believe Nicolas Cage. You can always tell them apart, even though they have no makeup tricks, because they are completely different characters. And it has one of the most bizarre endings for everybody who analyzes film that is just insane. Joaquin Phoenix has done better. He has won Oscars because he has done better. Not in this one. He was a sad, lonely boy in this one, and that's all he was going to do. Nicolas Cage got nominated for Best Actor. He lost to The Pianist, but he should have won.
Time. Okie dokie. Chris Pratt was in her, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh, I just won the Warzone belt.
Give it back.
All right. Bar, you get to go first this time.
Okay. I went with Nazario. I think that this is one of those fights that I really wanted to hop in because Ryan started arguing more about the character and Spike Jonze and not really the performance, and then Nazario kind of just like came in at the end with like a sucker punch, pointing all that out. So I think Nazario did the better job of who gave the better acting performance.
Brian.
I kind of agree with Nazario as well. This one was actually one fairly early for me because I mean Nazario, really pointed out that Nicolas Cage had to basically create two roles, and he basically made them so different characters, which even with their mannerisms you could tell who was who. Whereas Joaquin Phoenix was almost not even acting because he played Lonely Sad Boy, which he is most of the time, and he also went on to point out that Joaquin Phoenix has won Oscars for other performances, where this he wasn't nominated and Nicolas Cage was.
My vote doesn't count. I also would have gone Nazario. I swear I'm not biased. But I think Nazario, won this one very early on. I thought actually his closing was a little weak when he said, "We're not talking about the movie," and then spent 40 seconds of his closing talking about his movie. But other than that, I thought the whole freeform, he basically had it from beginning to end. Ryan made some good points, don't get me wrong, but Nazario kind of shut most of them down. So Nazario is going to take the lead 2-1 as we get into the final prep question. This was drafted by Ryan in the category of horror icons. The question is, what is the stupidest kill in a horror icons movie? I'm very excited for this one. Ryan, you get to start. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
So when you're thinking stupid kills in horror movies, you're probably just thinking, "Oh, well, that victim was stupid and did that," or that victim died from something uneventful. I went with the death of Freddy Krueger himself in Freddy's Dead: The Last Nightmare or The Final Nightmare. It wasn't obviously the last nightmare because we had Newt Nightmare. There's a lot of nightmares. This one gave me the most nightmares because when you go ahead and you kill off one of the most iconic villains in horror movie history, one who has died multiple times in elaborate, expansive ways, and you do it with 3D and a pipe bomb. This is the legacy that you leave in this franchise. This is the ultimate way to kill the haunter of dreams. This is what you do. You kill off the franchise in the most unspectacular way, any way possible. This is the stupidest way you could have killed him.
All right, Nazario, you have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
I also went with the stupidest reason to kill a character, and that's why I picked Laurie Strode's death at the beginning of Halloween Resurrection. Laurie Strode is the heart and soul of the Halloween franchise. She was in the first 2 original films, and then they decided to do something different, and it didn't really work out. So they went back to her with H2O, a movie that set her up as a empowered female character who knew what the danger of Michael Myers was, and she wanted to avoid it at all costs. And then in the end, when she actually has to face it because there's no avoiding it, she makes a decision. She decides that it's time to end this. She steals the ambulance and she kills Michael Myers. This sadly becomes null when they decided to retcon all this with the stupidest beginning of the whole series in Halloween Resurrection, where they said, no, it was not Michael Myers. At some point in those 30 seconds, they switch it between a nurse and Michael, and she killed somebody else. And then have Michael just show up and kill her in the first 5 minutes for no goddamn reason. It just ruined the whole thing moving forward.
Time. All right. Gentlemen, both good choices. I'm proud of you. 5 minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
I don't believe that you can never move on from Laurie Strode with the Halloween franchise. They tried to do it and it didn't work out, which they went back to her. They do this at the beginning of the movie for no reason other than just shock the audience. Like, okay, we got Jamie Lee Curtis back and now she's dead. And now you're going to spend the rest of the movie with Busta Rhymes. This was such a massive failure. Let me finish. It was such a massive failure that everything after this was back to Laurie Strode. Even the reboots with Rob Zombie, center on Laurie Strode. The sequel in 2018, center on Laurie Strode, because they know this is the heart of the franchise.
The problem is Jamie Lee Curtis wanted to die. She wanted Laurie Strode to die. They already killed her off in Halloween 4, and it was her idea to do like a little bit of a retcon with H2O. But the only reason she even agreed to do it was because she wanted this to be the end. Laurie Strode was not the pinnacle of woman empowerment. She was an alcoholic. She was a drug user. She was a broken down person because of what happened to Mike Myers. And she wanted to go ahead and go out with that little bit of blaze of glory, but she wanted it to end. And then when you find out that everything that she worked up to, everything she braved up for was for naught, and for Michael to finally get the last laugh on him, because they can't kill off Michael. That's almost contractually obligated. So they do the next best thing. They kill off Laurie and they let that rest in peace. So this way they can continue the franchise. That made sense. To kill off Freddy Krueger in Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. I can't even say the title right because I just don't like the movie. You go ahead and you kill off the killer that you've killed off in so many ways, so unspectacularly. And then even more so, you have to go ahead and make another movie that's out of canon, but still about Freddy Krueger, and you demonize him and everything. You could have really just taken the time and made that 6th movie so much better, but they went on the cheap and they did not
give me
care.
A chance here.
At least the people using Halloween cared about Michael Myers. Nobody gave a damn about Freddy.
Give me a chance here because you're taking a lot of time. The fact that she decided to do that, and that was an idea by the actor, doesn't mean it's a good decision for the franchise. It was not. She could have ended, and yes, she was a drunk, she had problems, but she empowered herself and finally put an end to it at the end of H2O. If they were going to move, that would be the end of the Halloween original series. If they were going to reboot it anyway later, they could start over and just go something different. The Freddy's Dead, I mean, is it bad looking for today's standards? Yes, it is. because they went into a gamble. They went into a gamble with the 3D effects, and they had to take the most they could take from that. The movie has a total problem the whole way through. They're trying to be a comedy, trying to be scary, and it never really balances out, which is why the death doesn't work in the end. The fact that they put a pipe bomb in him and he explodes into the screen is because they wanted to use the 3D. They wanted to try CGI, which was one of the first times that they actually were trying to do that in the horror film. They didn't want to really kill Freddy either, because they already had secured the rights to Jason and they were going to put them together. They needed to end the series temporarily, which is why the death cannot be final, because they wanted to bring it back later. It was just a means to an end. For Halloween, it was not really a means to an end because they rebooted.
Yes, but it was also a franchise that they were going to go ahead and make Halloween movies regardless. The only reason they even brought Laurie Strode back in was because Jamie Lee Curtis made the suggestion. So to go ahead and say that, it was the stupidest kill when it was something that made sense for the storyline, when it made sense because of them two going back and forth, and made sense for the character as she was presented in H2O at that time, different from the Halloween movies that we're getting now. She was a broken down woman. And of course she went crazy when she found out she killed somebody who wasn't Michael. And of course, the apprehension of that happening again made her go ahead, stretch out to take off the mask, and that was her undoing. It's not a stupid kill. It's actually a very smart kill. It's a clever kill, and it makes sense in the Halloween franchise. Freddy's dead. Look,
even if it was her suggestion, like I said, it doesn't mean it's a good idea. And the evidence,
but it was the idea that they went with in order to
because
continue
everything else that comes after it is based on Laurie Strode. They tried to get away with her with doing that, and it just didn't work out. Nothing has worked after that in the Halloween franchise without Laurie Strode. In the other point, Freddy's death actually opened the gate to something kind of remarkable, which is Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Because even though in the explosion at the end of 6, you can see that he turns into the 3 demons. Even that got used in Wes Craven's New Nightmare when they said that it was an evil entity, a demon, that was cut up inside the Freddy Krueger character. And
but
it gave us one of the most meta, excellent horror movies of all time. It was a means to move on the character into another level. By killing Laurie Strode, you killed Michael Myers.
No, if you kill Laurie Strode, it's another body. Michael Myers continues. When the man you kill off the main killer of the movies and you do it, no.
All right, Nazario, you get to close first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Laurie Strode has always been the heart of the franchise. You can tell that by the original Halloween, which is still the best one they have ever made, and Halloween 2. Yes, she didn't want to come back. That's why they did something different with 3, 4, and 5, 5, and 6. For 7, she agreed to come back. It was a broken character because of the things he experienced. It was similar to the idea of 2018. They just went more hardcore with that one. But in at the end of H2O, she had decided to end this. She had decided to kill Michael. And to do cheaply a retcon, because it's not presented in the movie like that at all. It's not even set up like this is a possibility. This is an end. This is the end of Michael Myers. And then, no, wait, let's not reboot it yet. Let's just do something else. Let's kill Laurie by throwing her off the fucking roof after you stab her with a knife. And she kisses Michael, which is another stupid moment that makes no sense. Freddy gets to launch into a new thing. They end the series because they plan to join him with Jason. But they also come with the idea of bringing him into the real world with Wes Craven's New Nightmare. We've seen an imaginative meta horror movie, one of the best ever.
Time. All right. Ryan, 1 minute's close when you start talking.
They use a gimmick like 3D, which wasn't even popular at its time, to get in an audience. They hyped up the fact that this would be his final film in order to hype up the audience. They went ahead and did the CGI bullshit, which didn't even play off that well because unless you have an actual film of the movie, you rarely could see it in 3D for most of the time that you had it. It was such a gimmicky, plotty mess to just get people in the seats that it was so stupid of them to do it. And mind you, New Nightmare and the reboot of Nightmare on Elm Street, none of those have kept this series going. So you basically killed the series with this schlocky, comedy, sort of cartoonish version of this movie. At least Halloween, no, you say Laurie Strode is the heart of Halloween franchise. No, Michael Myers is the heart of the franchise. That's why when they stopped the number 3 one, they went back to Michael Myers. You could do many other people and still have Michael in there. But to kill off the main killer and in such a pathetic way does injustice to the franchise in itself.
Time. Hokey dokie. Gentlemen, are you ready?
No.
All right, I get to start this one. I think this was a really good fight. There were lots of good points brought up. These two clearly know their horror icons. This was really close, and I think where I land, I'm glad I get to go first, and I don't have to. I'm not like influenced by you guys at all. I swear I'm not biased. I went with Nazario. I think ultimately Nazario sold me on why it would have been the perfect ending for Lori in 7, and they absolutely ruin it with the stupidest thing they could have done. He convinced me that that was worse than killing off Freddy in a movie that, like he said, was already kind of meh to begin with. It was really close. I think Ryan had a lot of really, really great points about, the pipe bomb and everything, but I just thought Nazario's like 3D stuff. Like, I don't know. It was really close. It was tough. I went with Nazario. Bar, you get to go next.
I swear I'm not doing this for sudden death. I just thought Ryan. I think that they both put up really good arguments. Nazario almost won me by pointing out the fucking kiss.
Yeah.
And how bad that was. I think Ryan just had better counters to Nazario's points than Nazario had counters for Ryan's points. I think they kind of started to teeter a little bit. So I went with Ryan because I think his defense was a little better.
And Brian, you get to decide this one.
I voted for Andrew. No. This is a hard one to judge because, I mean, you're comparing people that interpreted the question differently. I mean, both valid, but one is the decision to kill someone versus how the person died, what makes it stupider. I think for me, what it came down to, well, I'll say I voted for Ryan. I'll say that. I think that for me, I think that he made a good point that, at least with Halloween, it was shocking. It was something clever. There's something about it that at least had some value to it. Whereas you're taking this iconic villain, and the way you finally kill him after all this time is just a pipe bomb. So I gave it to Ryan.
All right. So that means we are tied.
It was a pipe bomb and ninja stars.
We are going on to
There's a lot of things plugged into him, but none of them killed him.
Sudden death. Here's how it's gonna work. We are going to say a question. The competitors are then going to have to give us an answer to that question. Whoever speaks first will be going first. You will have 45 seconds to open your argument, followed by a 30-second rebuttal. You can use your time however you wish. Any questions from the competitors? All right. So, gentlemen, like I said, I will say the question, and then I will repeat the question. After I've repeated it the second time, you may give an answer. If you have an answer and you're ready, just say it. Don't wait, please, so you get this thing rocking and rolling. So, your question will come from the Warzone side of Fanzone. And your question is, who is the best actor or actress working today to have not won an Oscar? Again, who is the best working actor or actress today to have not won an Oscar? You can use the internet if you need it.
Rob Schneider.
And I might cut here.
Harder.
I'll say Ryan Gosling.
Okay.
Adam Driver.
All right. Ryan Gosling versus Adam Driver. So I will stay on screen to give you guys your countdowns.
What's the format? I've never been here before, I think.
45 seconds to start. Like I explained the rules earlier. 45 seconds. You'll get 45 seconds since you said your answer first. Then Ryan will get 45 seconds. Then you'll get 30 seconds. Then he'll get 30 seconds. You can use your time however you want. You don't have to spend your opening just on yours or whatever. You can use it however you want. Okay. So Nazario, whenever you're ready, 45 seconds.
I do believe Ryan Gosling is an actor that commands your attention when he comes to screen, and he has proven he's been working for a while, and he has proven he has the ability to do different kind of movie. He does independent movies like The Believer and Half Nelson. He does sci-fi like Blade Runner 2049. He does intense drama like Drive. He does comedies like The Nice Guys. He also the Crazy Stupid Love, and he shows up in things you don't expect, like all the good things. And it's in general an actor that commands your attention. I think he's a good choice. He will eventually be recognized, but he's that guy that whenever he puts in a movie, you always want to see what's going on, and he can carry a movie by himself. Sometimes movies that aren't even that good. Adam Driver just started in the scene. Let's see what he can do in a couple of years.
Time. Ryan, 45 seconds when you start talking.
If we're talking about actors who have never won an Academy Award for acting, then we're talking about actors who could go ahead and handle themselves in prestige films that are made to catch the Oscar's eye and warrant the attention that is necessary. We're talking Adam Driver. He has been in films like Annette, Black Klansman, The Report, Lincoln, Francis Ha, all these great movies, and he always shines in every single role he is in. He's not some relegated to the background actor. He's not some sort of person that just, goes ahead and walks through their lines. Every time he does something, you notice him. He has been noticed by the Academy before. Nominated, never won, and I'm sure his win is coming to the future. Why not?
Time. Nazario, 30 seconds.
I do agree that Adam Driver is a good actor, but I don't think he's as malleable as Ryan Gosling. He tried to do a big movie with Star Wars, and it was mixed results. He shines more in the independent movies, the drama, the smaller categories one. Ryan Gosling, like you said, has proven he can do prestige movies. He was in The First Man, and it's a movie that was designed to be like award-causing attention. And you can tell when he's not in the movie anymore. Like The Place Behind the Pines is a movie that dies the second Ryan Gosling leaves the screen. I don't think Adam Driver has a movie he has carried by himself yet.
Ryan, 30 seconds.
Knock on the Star Wars movies all you want. He was the best thing about the new movies as far as Star Wars is concerned. So he can do the big budget stuff. And you talk about him being in the indie scene. That's the kind of acting that gets you the award nominations. That's the kind of stuff that gets you noticed. You could look at anything that he's done, whether it was like The Meyerowitz, Silence, Midnight Special. He's got a plethora of movies where he is just an actor's actor. It fills his roles to the point where you understand where he's coming from, who he is as a character.
Time. All right. The arguments have ended. Boom. Okay. And I have to write down. All right. Brian's vote. Are you good, Bar? You're muted, by the way, Bar. Brian's vote decided it last time, so I believe he's going first. Brian, where are you going?
I voted Nazario. I think that he did a good job of talking about how Gosling has done so many different genres. How he's always reliable, how he's all these different characters, and I especially like this point about how Adam Driver is still relatively very new, and so he's got time. Maybe in a few years, could see what he do. I did disagree with one thing he said about Driver not being as malleable, because I actually like Driver way better in his comedies than I do in his dramas, but that's just me.
Okay, I'll go next. I thought that again, Ryan. I'm sorry, dude. I do like
Jesus.
you. I think you're good at this game. I really do. But I went with Monty. Ultimately, Montenegro. Ultimately,
Which one of these is Monty?
Yeah. You got
Who's
nicknames.
that?
So.
Montenegro. Ultimately, I thought that Ryan's 45-second start was good. I thought he didn't get anywhere in his 30 seconds. Nazario, I thought used his 30 seconds really well to Brian mentioned, talk about how Ryan Gosling was super malleable and has been in all of these parts and always as a standout, is an Oscar nominated actor that continues to get nominated for things, while Adam Driver was also nominated for something. He just doesn't have the time yet like Ryan Gosling does. So Bar, your vote doesn't count, but where would you have gone and why?
I was also going with Nazario, mainly because Nazario argued the range of Gosling a little bit better. Also, that Place Beyond the Pines argument was probably the most solid argument of the entire night, honestly.
That movie slaps. But that means your winner, Nazario Montenegro. We are going to start by talking to Ryan. Ryan, really great match. I know you probably think that I hate you. I swear to God I don't. You're very, very good at this game. A lot of close points there. How are you feeling about the performance tonight?
First of all, Tim, I don't hate you. Your chair in heaven may be crying, considering it was devoted to him.
Yeah, it's true.
And maybe you love Nazario more than you like me, but who am I to tell someone who and they should love and not? That's okay. But this was a rough match, obviously. I mean, again, I'm always happy when it comes down to the point where, he may have been stronger in his fields, but I was stronger in mine, and that, sets the break. Do I feel like it could have gone one way or the other on the Spike Jonze question? Yes, but again, I think that was maybe more of a question of interpretation based upon the director involved. And considering Nazario, I don't follow the man's career that tightly, but if this is his first time going to the fifth question and knowing that format and having to learn it, I consider that a bit of a win, actually pushing someone as good as Nazario to that limit. So I raised my head up high. I did what I came to do. It just happened to sway one way in rather than the other. And again, that's nothing against you, Tim. That's nothing against you.
Thank you. So Ryan, this does mean that you're done for the season, but is there anybody next season that want to come back and debate?
Well, I know I got some history with Andrew.
Don't we? You guys played in a title match.
I mean, if he'd want.
We'll see.
Although I should say also, Brian with that complete and utter TKO that he put me through. That's also. I'm a man of two minds. It's like, do I want to be someone that goes ahead and just repeats himself and goes after the same people? Or do I want to go against new, fresh competitors? Because I've gone against Nazario. I've gone against Joe Harrison. I've gone against these two gentlemen. And mind you, all class acts. But I wouldn't be against trying somebody new just to go ahead and freshen up the palate.
That's fair. Ryan, thank you for your time, but I am going to have to take you out right now because you did say that Andrew Barr was a class act, so we can't have that here. But good job.
Yeah, screw you.
Good job tonight. Let's bring in Nazario and I guess his manager, Hanley.
What the fuck happened? I wasn't paying attention.
I didn't fuck it up.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Nazario.
I fucked up a little bit. I mean, he won the argument with Freddy dying, and he dies in every fucking move.
Jesus Christ. You had one job, win horror icons. You didn't even fucking do that? What good are you? Why'd you give this guy the win? What the fuck is wrong with you three?
He also bashed Back to the Future pretty hard.
Oh my god. That hurt my soul. I don't think Ryan or even knows this. That is my favorite movie of all time.
Jesus Christ.
I had to dig deep. That was rough.
So, Nazario, you are moving on to the number one contenders match to play the winner of Robert Parker and Cameron Holtzman. I have a feeling I know which one you'd rather play, but why don't you tell us?
What is this anyways? What the fuck are we in?
I don't know. They asked me a question and we argued for a bunch of time. Then Ryan doesn't stop talking and I have to interrupt him. It's weird. I don't know this format. I guess I would like to be the one that loses the most.
I like that sound. Invite me to that.
Who has the worst record?
The word that would be Cameron
who sucks the
Holtzman,
most?
because he's new, so
Then that's the one I want. I can kick some Canadian ass. Yeah.
okay, sounds good. So Nazario, we'll see you in a few weeks for the number one contenders match. Thank you to Mike as well for some reason. Brian, any final thoughts on the match?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen Ryan debate since I debated him in our first match, and that was kind of ugly. He has come a long way.
Yeah.
I thought he had some really good arguments. All of the, even the ones that he lost, I thought he did a good job. Nazario made some better points in those. So this is fun to watch.
Bar, final thoughts from you.
No, these were some great fights. Especially the Horror Icons one. That one was great. So yeah.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us tonight at Fanzone. Like I said, in a couple weeks here, we got the Robert Parker versus Cameron Holtzman match, and then the number one contenders match to follow. It's going to be exciting. So for everybody here, thank you to Ryan. Thank you to the video store, I guess we could say. Thank you to Bar and to Brian and Cody from the Beyond for helping write the questions. So we'll see you guys real soon with the next match. Bye.
That's my bad. I was sending a tweet.
Buy their shit.